Desert Undertones are a surf band based out of Tucson, Arizona. This song is called Taos Lightning. It's from their brand new album, En Regalia. You can find it over at desertundertones.bandcamp.com, or you can hear it in its entirety at the end of this episode of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. This is Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Big thanks to Desert Undertones for letting us play their music here on the show. And seriously, this album just came out a couple of days ago. Check them out. You can find them on Bandcamp, like I said, or just look up desertundertones.com. They've got some shows coming up next month as well. Festivus at the Rialto. It's happening on December 19th. And then on December 20th, they're doing a show during the day at Moto Sonora Brewery. Both shows are in Tucson. You can find out more about that over at desertundertones.com/events. Make sure you check them out. Let them know that you heard about them here on the podcast. My name is Derek M. Cook. I want to welcome you to the show, and I am super, super excited because this week we're going to take you back in time to when Beth and I and Kenny went to the Loft Cinema in Tucson, Arizona for a screening of Jason and the Argonauts. Now, we're not going to talk about the screening of Jason and the Argonauts. We're not going to talk about the movie. It's a great movie. I mean, it's a given. It's a Harryhausen film. The reason we're going back to the Loft is because Kenny was able to get an interview with the folks that were at the show. Who were the folks at the show? Ray Harryhausen's daughter, Vanessa Harryhausen, was there. Connor Heaney was there as well. He is from the Ray and Diana Harryhausen Foundation. The collections manager, he was there. Kenny even got an interview with somebody from the Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures itself. They're the ones hosting this exhibit, the Ray Harryhausen Miniature Models of the Silver Screen. It's running now. It's in Tucson. You have until May 3rd to get there. So hey, maybe when you're checking out the Desert Undertones, you can check out the museum as well, or vice versa. Either way, go check it out. We got an interview with them, and then after the screening of Jason and the Argonauts, there was a long Q&A that took place, and, you know, Kenny got us some good seats at the theater. We set up my recorder, and we got permission to record the Q&A and play it here on the show. There's a lot less Q&A and more just regular presentation, and there was a visual component to the presentation. Every once in a while, Connor or Vanessa will reference something on the screen. I think y'all can fill in the blanks a little bit. I did try to clean it up, and hopefully it makes sense. I hope you enjoy it. I enjoyed it, and I know that some of you guys and gals and everybody else have been looking forward to this.
Hey, Derek. Hey, Beth. Hey, group. It's Shaggy from Scooby. No, Captain Billy with the bad Friday morning voice. Rubbing salt in the wound about that Ray Harryhausen exhibition in your neck of the woods. You so-and-so. All right, I decided if I tell the story, I'm going to make you jealous now. Years ago, it was the early 2000s, I looked online. I cannot find out specifically what year and month. The internet did not help me on this one. Ray Harryhausen came to the Cleveland Cinematheque. Apparently, he was pen pals with a gentleman who lived in Cleveland, he just passed away a couple years ago. And I guess they were pen pals for years, and somehow this friend talked Ray into coming to Cleveland. It was not part of any kind of tour or anything. It was a personal visit, and the personal visit turned into an experience at the Cleveland Cinematheque. He had brought along a highlight reel which is the only way I've seen any Ray Harryhausen anything on a big screen. I've yet to see a big screen a big movie on a big screen yet. But Ray came, Ray brought a trunk full of props, and Ray assigned autographs for everybody, which was not announced. I would have brought something. I have an autograph book for just such an occasion, and I did not bring it because I did not know Ray was going to be signing autographs. Fortunately, I had my ticket stub from the show. I have that signed, so there. The one story I've been holding back all this time, because now you can feel jealous of me as you go to that exhibition of all Ray's awesome props. So,
all right, Captain Billy, you got me. I'm jealous. I would have loved to have met the man. I know there are people out there in my immediate circle who have met the man and have his autograph and have expressed to him how important his work was to them. And that's just amazing. I mean, I got to do it with Vanessa and Connor. I didn't record it, but after the screening and after the Q&A, I did chat with them briefly. And it was a good conversation, and I look forward to reaching out to them again in the future. But man, how cool is that you got to do that? Oh, I've never heard a bad story about Mr. Harryhausen. I've heard that he's always made time for his fans. The late Vince Rotolo of the B-Movie Cast and his wife were visiting Europe, England, at one point, and through some connections, it was made possible for Vince and Mary to visit Ray Harryhausen at his home. The only thing that was requested is that they don't record anything for the podcast, which is fine. I totally understand that. But that didn't mean that Vince didn't talk about it on an episode of the B-Movie Cast, and he had nothing but nice, warm things to say. Mary had nothing but nice and warm things to say about actually visiting with Ray Harryhausen while they were in England. How amazing would that have been? I can't help but think back to listening to that episode of the B-Movie Cast, and I can't remember which episode it was, where Vince was explaining what had happened, because he didn't know. It was all kind of planned as a surprise. They went to a house, he knocked on a door, the door opened by Harryhausen himself, and Vince was just like, wow, holy cow, that's amazing. Rest in peace, Vince. We'll talk about you again here later in this episode, because I do have some feedback from some listeners that we're going to play later on in this episode. Captain Billy, thanks for calling in and sharing that with us. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, I've had the Desert Undertones playing for a while, so why don't we let them take a break here in a second. We've got Mark Matzke chomping at the bit with his Beta Capsule review, with a look at a very horror-ish like episode of Ultraman Taro, which I gotta tell you, man, Taro, this is a first-time exposure for me when it comes to Ultraman Taro. I know it's a first-time watch for Mark. I am very impressed. I'm loving it a lot. Ultraman 80 is still my favorite Ultraman, but Taro is getting there, man, or Taro is getting up there for me. It's really, really good. And Mark's Beta Capsule review, I feel like, have been amazing. So thanks for doing that, Mark. We've got that coming up. Then we're going to get to Kenny's interview. We're going to do the Q&A. We'll do some feedback. Why don't we get to all of that right now?
Picture of all time.
Don't let him get me!
A beautiful girl torn from the arms of her lover by a jungle beast. King Kong.
See a battle between prehistoric monsters on an island time forgot.
A nightmare jungle creature from the primeval past stalking Midnight Street.
My baby! It's got my baby!
See the thrill classic of all time, the biggest gorilla picture ever made in motion picture history. The jungle epic that can never be duplicated.
See RKO's original...
King Kong.
King Kong!
King Kong!
There was mighty Joe Young, the creature from the Black Lagoon, King Kong. And now there is Wanji. Wanji, born 50 million years ago and bursting from the bowels of the earth today to terrorize the West. Wanji, the most mammoth monster of them all, terrifying survivor of a lost era, rampaging through a forbidden land, a land they call the Valley of Wanji. Call it amazing, fantastic, unbelievable, and call it the greatest monster movie ever. The Valley of Wanji, the strangest Western roundup ever, starring James Franciscus, Gila Golan, and Richard Carlson. From Warner Brothers 7 Arts, in exciting Dynamation and Technicolor. The Valley of Wanji is rated G, spectacular entertainment for the whole family.
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review.
Ultraman Taro, Episode 11. The Vampire Flower is a Girl's Spirit. Original air date June 15th, 1973. On a long, rainy night, 2 policemen investigating the sound of a baby's cry meet untimely deaths, with their bodies completely drained of blood. The killings are one in a string of incidents called the Vampire Murders. With the city on edge, the police department seeks the help of ZAT, and while conducting a somewhat cursory search, Kotaro saves a little girl from getting run over by traffic. Her name is Kanae, and she quickly begins to exhibit odd qualities. She continuously carries flowers and pruning shears, and cannot identify where she lives. It's finally determined she wandered away from her adoptive parents, and Kotaro takes her home, reuniting Kanae with her mom. Meanwhile, a vine grows rapidly from the tomb of forsaken children, nearly killing Kenichi and successfully ending the life of Kanae's adoptive mother, while the girl watches. ZAT connects the dots between Kanae's flowers and the vampire murders, but their attempt to root out the problem only serves to awaken bloodthirsty ivy monster Vasara. The Vampire Flower is a Girl's Spirit represents the first real change of pace for the series, serving up a genuinely unnerving horror story before the customary kaiju battle commences. What gives Episode 11 such bite is the straightforward way it addresses the issue of child abandonment, commenting on orphans, adoption, parental regret, and latchkey kids. Most impactful of all is the revelation that Kanae is not a ghost, or an evil spirit, or an alien, but simply an unwanted girl filled with homicidal anger. For Bride of Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
First there was sight, then came sound, and now there's the motion picture miracle of Dynarama, the revolutionary new process that brings to life all the dazzling beauty and excitement of a spectacular world of imagination. Legend becomes startling fact. The unreal becomes real. For now, Dynarama gives you the greatest adventure of the greatest superhero in history, the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. It takes you to uncharted kingdoms of breath-catching passions and darkest evil. It throws you into the embrace of the 6-armed goddess with the shining swords, takes you to the fearsome land of the Green Skulls, where you battle the flying devil, destroy the raging man-beast, and grapple with the titanic giantess of wood. And all of it in the wonder of Dynarama. See The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, the motion picture experience of the 70s, from Columbia Pictures Rated G, general audiences.
I say there are things better left unsolved.
Who knows what waits for us in nature's no man's land?
Impossible, unbelievable, fantastic. But I tell you, it could happen. It could happen. It could happen. It could happen.
Yes, it could happen. For various authorities believe that buried somewhere under the polar ice cap, in a state of suspended animation, are the awesome creatures, the leviathans that roamed the earth at the dawn of time. And under certain conditions, a nuclear explosion could free one from his icy tomb. Then, guided by instinct, the beast would come back to the caverns of the deepest Atlantic where it was spawned. An armored giant, wreaking his prehistoric fury on modern man and his puny machines. Cities would be terrorized by the cruel intruder from the past. Populations crazed and panicked with fear by its destructive force. Granite and steel would crumble. Soldiers and their weapons would be powerless before the onslaught of the beast. The beast. The beast. The beast from 20,000 fathoms.
Herald Square, 34th Street, Broadway. Every section of the city is guarded. No one knows where the monster will strike next.
Another one, Colonel?
No.
You know where the radioactive isotope is?
No, but if it can be loaded, I can fire it.
I'll load it. Just remember one thing. This is the only isotope of its kind this side of Oak Ridge, so you can't miss.
Hello there, Monster Kid Radioheads. This is Kenny from A Look at Famous Monsters of Filmland with a special presentation for you. If you know me at all, you know I'm a big Harryhausen fan. When I heard that an exhibit of his art was coming just 4 hours driving from my home in Mexico, I signed up and made my plans. Today, I am in the Mini Time Machine Museum in Tucson, Arizona, where the Ray and Diana Harryhausen Foundation has opened up an exhibit of some of Ray's most iconic works. I am here with some special guests who are going to tell you more about it. First off, we have Emily Wolferton, the curator of the museum. Emily, can you tell us about the museum and why it is a great place for a Ray Harryhausen exhibit?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. That's a great question. So I know that Ray Harryhausen, the collection would seem to be befitting of a museum that is a film archive or cinema history, and we are a museum of miniatures. We opened in 2009. Our founders were Patricia and Walter Arnell, and they collected miniatures, from all over the world. We have a great collection of antique, historic, and contemporary small-scale, fine-scale miniatures. But what I love to do is show how miniatures are used in different cultures and in different facets of society, and in this case, showing how miniatures are used in the film industry, specifically in stop-motion animation. And so that's why we are so lucky to have the Harryhausen collection here at our museum. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've been working with the foundation. Our museum made contact before the pandemic. It's been a long while coming, but we're really excited to show, because again, these are titans of the screen, right? Colossal creatures. And then you come here and you realize that the Kraken is actually quite small. Medusa is actually quite small. And so showing how miniatures are used with forced perspective is fantastic. And again, showing that storytelling aspect, which is universal to miniatures. And Ray was such a great storyteller. So that's why it's here. And I'm just so excited to have it. It's been really wonderful. It's bringing in a whole new audience to the museum, and it's been a real treat.
Later on today, we will be seeing Jason and the Argonauts in the historic Loft Theater as part of the opening weekend. The exhibit will be here until May 3rd, 2026. Emily, are there plans for any other special events?
That's a great question, and we're actually working on that. I know that we have a lot of great art house theaters here in Tucson. And so, the Loft is a great nonprofit. It's a historic theater here in town, and they are hosting that screening for us later today, Jason and the Argonauts. And then we're also working with a Fox Theater They actually did a screening as part of their literacy program over the summer with kids. They showed Ray's fairy tales and Mother Goose stories, and they read the screens out loud with the kids and had a really great time there. And we're hoping to put together something for the 45th anniversary of Clash of the Titans, which will be coming up next year. So we're looking to do that. I know that the University of Arizona is interested in keeping up that momentum with us too, perhaps having some stop motion animation workshops there at the university. And I know that we can convince Connor to maybe get on the Zoom from Edinburgh and keep that momentum going for the next few months. So yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Our next guest is the collections manager for the Harryhausen Foundation, Connor Heaney, from Edinburgh, Scotland. Connor, please tell us how you found out about Ray Harryhausen and how you got this job we are all envious of.
Thanks, Kenny. So I was brought up on Ray Harryhausen's films. My mum actually did a classics degree, and she credits that to watching Jason and the Argonauts, as so many did in the 1960s and 70s. It was on television a lot in the UK, and in fact still is. Every rainy bank holiday, people settle down and watch Jason. So I knew Ray Harryhausen's work well, but in terms of how this job came about, I did an archaeology degree, so I studied archaeology in Scotland, went to work with Historic Scotland. I had a job dealing with aerial photography, first in archaeology and then for World War II reconnaissance photography. So very interesting, these brave chaps that would fly over Germany with a camera instead of a gun in their Spitfire and survey. So that was an interesting job. But then this mysterious post cropped up in the job listings, and it just said film archive or film collection with a legal firm in Edinburgh. And I applied for it, but I didn't know what to expect. And when the letter came through to say it was for the Ray Harryhausen collection, I could have fallen off my seat. It was I knew who Ray was, obviously. I thought there must be another Ray Harryhausen in Scotland, because I had no idea they had any connection to Edinburgh. I assumed the collection would be in Los Angeles. But then I went along to my interview, and I was interviewed by Vanessa alongside Caroline Munro and John Walsh, who's another trustee at the foundation. And it's been a wonderful roller coaster ride ever since. I'm the collections manager for the foundation, so I take care of the day-to-day business for the foundation, including exhibitions just like this. And it's a real honor to be here in Tucson with the Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures, an incredible place to display Ray's work.
How did the foundation make the connection with the Mini Time Machine Museum?
So we have exhibitions around the world, and we are open to displaying Ray's models and artworks at museums and galleries of different sizes. And it was the museum itself who reached out to us shortly before Ray's centenary year in 2020. So we had a lot of activity planned for 2020. And I think my reply was, yes, definitely sounds interesting, but let's just get next year out of the way, and then we'll talk. I think the plan was that the exhibition would come here far sooner. As we all know, the world was slightly derailed for a year or two. We had a big exhibition in Edinburgh that ended up going ahead in the midst of the pandemic and was a really, a huge success given the circumstances. That was actually extended for another, couple of years because of the wider situation. And we stayed in touch. The staff here very persistently kind of kept a hold of us, and we spoke and eventually found a date that was suitable to all parties. So this launch in October 2025, we've been looking forward to for a long time. And as soon as I saw this museum, I thought, this is going to be something really special. And we're proud of all of the exhibitions we've done across the world, in the UK and in Europe and the States. But this one, I think, is, I described it yesterday as the jewel in the crown. It's just, there's something really special about this museum and the people that work here, and the way that Emily and Moira and the team here have really thrown themselves into it. They've given all their heart to putting this exhibition together, and the attention to detail has been wonderful. And it's just been such a treat to come over here and see the exhibition open in person.
Can you give us an idea of what monster kids will see in this exhibit? So the collection at the Ray and Diana Harryhausen Foundation is enormous. It's no exaggeration to say that Ray kept everything. So we have tens of thousands of items in the collection, which is wonderful, but it does make curating an exhibition quite tricky because you sort of think where to start. With this particular selection of items, we wanted to get a little bit of everything. So there's something here from each of Ray's films, as well as from his early works and experiments, and a few personal artifacts as well. But we tried to get something from each of Ray Harryhausen's movies, because we know that every one of his films is somebody's favorite. So we had to get everything in there. Of course, there are the crown jewels of the collection, the most iconic creatures that Ray built. The skeletons and Medusa, Bubo the Owl, and the Hydra, and so many others that I think people expect to see when they come to see an exhibition of Ray's work. So of course they're present, but we try and put in a few surprises as well. We know there's people that travel to each and every one of the Foundation's exhibits, and we try to make sure they get a little surprise as well. So I think that's something people may not have seen before, is a prototype for the Redosaurus from the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, built in 1953. So the original creature from that film has long gone. I think Ray dismantled that model in the 1950s because he required the armature parts for other iconic creations. But this prototype, a soft rubber prototype of the Redosaurus, still exists and is being displayed for the first time in this touring exhibition. And I know that was one where a few long-term fans got in touch saying, I had no idea that this existed. And it's nice to be able to surprise people like that. And with such a large archive, we can pull out some secrets and things that people maybe haven't seen before. There are a lot of miniatures in this particular collection of items, and the museum requested that, if there were examples of scale. So as well as the miniature buildings, we have different scales for models. We have a couple of different models for the Ornithomimus or Bubo the Owl or Calabos to give an idea of how Ray used scale in his movies. We also have we tried to get a diverse selection of mediums, the different types of work that Ray carried out. So as well as the latex models, which you see screen used in his movies, we have a number of bronzes that Ray built later in life, bronze recreations that he built for creatures that no longer existed, such as the Redosaurus or the Cyclops or others. We have a lot of his artwork, his key drawings, these incredibly detailed drawings that he made during the production of his movies, alongside storyboards and sketches. So we tried to get a little bit of every element of Ray Harryhausen's work in there. We also have a painting from Willis O'Brien, who was, of course, Ray's mentor and hero. Ray spoke about Willis O'Brien, I think, in every interview he ever made, Willis O'Brien and King Kong, and so it's important for us to celebrate his work as well. And finally, I think it's really important to give a lot of credit to Alan Friswell, who was the Foundation's conservator. Many of the models you see on display simply wouldn't be able to travel if Alan hadn't restored, repaired, or conserved these items. Now, Alan was somebody that worked with Ray directly. Ray hired Alan later in life, for the purpose of restoring these models so that they could be seen and enjoyed for generations to come. Latex rubber is an organic material that deteriorates naturally over time, and what we're trying to do at the Foundation is arrest that and ensure that these models can be displayed and studied for decades to come, which is what Ray wanted to happen. And I hope that he would have been happy with how everything looks here at the museum in Tucson. Really delightful to be introducing new audiences to his work. There's also, we provide the raw materials to the museum, but the museum then have their own perspective on how they'd like to display things. So it's every exhibition is slightly different and very special. And there's lots of really wonderful interpretive text to guide you along through the exhibition, recreations of photographs, a really in-depth timeline for Ray's life as well, for people who maybe don't know his backstory and don't know the context for his films. So there's a lot for people to see. If you've seen Ray's work before, or if you're just learning about Ray Harryhausen for the first time, I think you'll be equally enthralled and entertained. Can you tell us of any future plans for the Foundation?
So we're certainly open to the exhibition touring to new places. I mean, this exhibit runs for 9 months until May 3rd, 2026. So I think it's the longest exhibition we've had here in the States, and it will give people in this part of the country a good chance to visit and see the models up close at their own leisure. After which we have a few different ideas for locations where it could tour to next. But if you or your listeners are involved in any of your local museums or galleries, feel free to get in touch, because we're open to keeping this exhibition running across the United States. It takes a lot of work to get such delicate and fragile and valuable items shipped over the Atlantic, and so we're open to making the most of it in the years to come. We have exhibitions planned for elsewhere in the world. In the United Kingdom, one of the nice things about Ray's collection is it is so large that we can stage multiple exhibitions that are curated around different themes and different elements of Ray's work. So keep your eyes peeled on the Foundation's websites and social media for more updates. We're very active online, and we try to keep people as informed as possible. But yeah, there's a lot of work goes into these exhibitions. So for now, we're enjoying the fact that Ray's work is on display here in Tucson for a fairly lengthy period.
Thank you, Connor. Next up, last but not least, we have the only true Harryhausen princess, his daughter, Vanessa. Before talking with her, I want to encourage all of you, if you haven't already, to get a copy of her book, Ray Harryhausen, Titan of Cinema. It was published 5 years ago and is a must-have for any monster kid. I think I'm a better writer than a talker, so I want to read the review I wrote for Amazon, one place you can find the book. After a second reading, I still feel the same way about it. I bought my first Harryhausen book in 1980, the second edition of Film Fantasy Scrapbook, in a London bookshop. I have collected every book written about him and by him since. All have been filled with great pics and bits and pieces of production history. But Ray Harryhausen, Titan of Cinema, is the book I was waiting for. A personal, intimate look at the man behind the creatures presented by his daughter. It goes beyond the technical achievements and presents a hard-working, patient, humorous, and loving filmmaker, husband, and father. The personal anecdotes and memories his daughter Vanessa shares are heartwarming, and the final brought tears to my eyes. If you, like me, have collected all of his books, do not think for one moment there is not any more that can be said. This book has so many gems about this great man. It is a needed part of any fan's collection. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for talking with Monster Kid Radio today. I want to start out with a portion of the book that was close to my heart. My main contribution to Monster Kid Radio is a regular segment entitled A Look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. On page 151, there's a full-page picture of FM 117, which features a painting of the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad skeleton fight. With it, you have some of your memories of the magazine and Uncle Forey. Tell us about the monthly ritual when you would get the magazine in the mail and your mom's reaction.
Dad and we would sit at the coffee table and at breakfast time and look at these and open them up and just wait for these wonderful magazines to come through, and she'd just look in disgust and go, "Do you have to read this so early in the morning? You know, could you not just wait until we've had breakfast?" I'm like, "No, I want to see what's going on." So yeah, it was that's our family. Dad loved it too.
Would she react the same way if one of your dad's creatures was featured in the magazine?
Yeah, she coped with Dad's things on the front cover better than she did of some of the awful distorted masks and other creatures, which I thought, you know, artistically and how the people had done these images were beautiful, really, even though they were quite gory. But it was another form of art, isn't it? Of course, anything that came in with anything to do with Dad on it, or an article, then we would look it up. And, you know, you'd have to go through the magazine sometimes to see where Dad's stuff was and go through some of what Mum would call as the gory stuff. But I loved it. I was brought up on it, so.
Your dad and Forey were good friends since their teenage years, so you also had opportunities to spend time with him as well. How were your times with Uncle Forey?
Well, when we came over to LA and that, we'd always visit Forry and Uncle Ray Bradbury. And there was one time that I visited Forry, and he said, "Oh, do you want to come upstairs? We've got some friends upstairs." And he took me upstairs in this double bed, and there were all these heads, rubber heads of Frankenstein and all sorts of different creatures. And it was great to see them all laid out. And he thought that was a hoot, and I enjoyed it too. He was a lovely man. We always had lots of fun times with both of them. And in my book, you'll see that we went to Disneyland, with both Uncle Ray and Forry. So they were close friends. And when we could, we spent a lot of time with both of them.
I'm curious, can you pinpoint a moment when you realized that your dad was more than just a loving, hardworking father, but he was also a cinematic magician?
As you said, and I've said in the book, I had the luxury of being able to see him create from the sketches to some of the armatures, and then to these wonderful creatures coming forth, and then seeing them on the screen. I think really seeing them on the screen after seeing the models and then interacting with live action, and the time it took. Like with Carly and all the sword fighting and that. I was on set for that. And he had a few trials and tribulations getting the timing and everything right. I think also when I met fans, or we went out to people, and maybe we were on a private holiday and people would approach Dad, and he'd be so amazed that people recognized him, and that sort of, I guess that wee seed sort of, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, he really is something. But it was beautiful to see, because he was such a humble person. So Dad was Dad, I guess. I don't know. It's just odd things that you see on screen, and you go, oh wow.
In the book, you express a special admiration for the baboon in Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger.
It is. The interaction with the chess scene was just great. And I remember we used to go to the zoo a lot, and he would study these creatures and how they walked and how the fur rippled and the expressions and everything. So seeing that come to life on screen, I mean, gosh, that was just stunning. All of his pieces I really love. I'm more familiar really with, like Golden Voyage creatures and Eye of the Tiger and Clash and stuff. But yeah, it's magical to be able to see it from sketch to model to live action. It's just like, oh my goodness, how did he do it? The time it took, it was just phenomenal.
You briefly mentioned in the book about being in boarding school at times when your father was working and traveling with your mother. Did you share with your friends in school who your dad was, or did you keep it under wraps?
I actually think about it. School was school, and that was that. And yes, of course, if a premiere had been out or a picture, somebody would go, oh my God, is that your dad we just went and saw this film. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know he did that. Or I'd take them home, sometimes at weekends we'd have friends come over, and I'd take them upstairs and then look at me and they'd go, Vanessa, this isn't normal. You've got all this here. How come you've got all this here? Isn't it supposed to be in a museum or something? And it was like, well, it's just home. So that sort of drove it home, that having all this wonderful stuff in the home and around me 24/7 wasn't quite the norm. But I thought it was. But it was lovely to see people's reaction. And then we had all these lovely people turn up, and fans and friends of Dad's, and they'd go upstairs and sit with all the creatures in these wonderful cabinets that Daddy made.
There was no mention in the book about you going to the premieres of your dad's movies. Would that have been the first time you saw his finished work?
I was lucky to be able to go through a lot of rushes with Dad in the workshop before it actually went to screen. So, like for instance in Golden Voyage, when they're doing the Fountain of Destiny, I got to see the clips of that and how he got all that sorted. As far as premieres, I got to go to obviously Clash and Eye of the Tiger and Golden Voyage. I didn't meet any I mean, the actors and people were there, but Dad, we've got a picture at home actually of Dad meeting Prince Charles, so that's nice. But yeah, I would go to the premiere and just be in the background and let him do all the stuff.
How are your post-premiere conversations as a family?
It's always happy to talk about it afterwards, and sometimes he would shock me by saying, "Oh, well, that scene could have been a bit better," and I'm like looking at him, really? How can it be any better? But they say with these wonderful, intelligent people and clever people like Dad, that they're always striving to be that's just one step better. I don't know how, because for his time, he was incredible, and the patience. And I don't think today's youth would have that time and patience to do, one frame at a time and moving the items.
Your memories include the last 3 or 4 of your dad's movies. How did you see his earlier ones?
Well, he loved looking in the TV Times or wherever we were in the States or at home. He'd always flick through and see if there was a film of his on. So inevitably, we would watch probably one of his films, which was fine. And he would, sometimes say, "Oh, that scene was really hard," or "really like that," and we'd just sit there and watch it. But he loved looking at his stuff and other films. I have lots of lovely memories sitting on the couch with him.
I love that, because that is how we had to do it too, as fans. Scouring the TV guide to find the next showing of your dad's films on television.
It was any time that there was something on, and wherever we were, he'd always flick and see if we could get the channel and see what. I'm not so familiar with the black and white pictures, but we watched anything that was his on TV, including Laurel and Hardy. He was a great fan of Laurel and Hardy.
Well, Connor and Emily are telling us it's time to go and see Jason and the Argonauts. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for your time, and we'll see you in the theater.
Here's the kind of movie you're waiting to see as John Ford and Miriam C. Cooper present Mighty Joe Young, whose sensational exploits will startle you, thrill you, electrify you with hair-raising excitement and suspense. See Mighty Joe Young as he savagely resists capture in his native Africa. Joe! See the most fantastic relationship between beast and beauty, a mere girl mastering a primitive giant. See Mighty Joe Young, enraged by Hollywood pranksters, destroy Filmland's swankiest nightclub on the fabulous Sunset Strip.
Mighty Joe Young, the picture that's alive with the most sensational action thrills ever filmed. Mightier than King Kong, Mighty Joe Young.
From the makers of Sinbad, Columbia Pictures presents Jason and the Argonauts. The mightiest band of warriors the world has ever known.
Turn back, Jason! We're trapped!
Sailing to the ends of the earth, battling against an incredible number of obstacles.
Where will you find this miracle? I have heard there is a tree at the end of the world, with a fleece of gold hanging in its branches.
In search of the fabulous magic golden fleece, Jason and the Argonauts, caught in the clutches of the towering bronze giant Talos, battered by treacherous falling rocks, taming vulturous harpies, facing the dreaded seven-headed Hydra, battling the merciless army of skeletons. Jason and the Argonauts, the classic story of Jason, a man who challenged the gods. Medea, a temple dancer who betrayed a kingdom for love. The Argonauts, the mightiest band of warriors the world has ever known. Jason and the Argonauts, a classic adventure story brought to the screen through the incredible special effects magic of Dinorama. Jason and the Argonauts, the search that became a legend.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the film. And we're going to have a Q&A here with Vanessa. With some tech gremlins during my first presentation, but those of you ironed out, I've got a nice long presentation which delve into Ray Harryhausen's archive and some of the secrets that it holds. Do you think that you could just talk a little bit about that amazing skeleton sequence? So here's the thing about the skeleton sequence that I've been thinking about quite a lot in recent years as I've been working with Ray's archive. Nobody was asking Ray to make life so difficult for himself. Nobody at Sony Pictures said you must make 7 skeletons. I'm usually could cafe with 1 or 2. But Ray had this commitment to excellence in filmmaking. And of course, there had been a single living skeleton in the 7th Voyage of Sinbad in 1958. And that sequence was so popular, Ray thought, I know, let's multiply it by 7. And when you look at that sequence, it's so complex. It's the kind of cinema scene that you never get bored of. Just watching it over and over, finding all these little details. I think it was 4.5 months, Vanessa. Yeah, it was. Ray spent 4.5 months on his own with those 7 skeletons for that sequence at the end of the film, which lasts 3 or 4 minutes. So a real testament to his craft as a filmmaker. So Vanessa, you grew up. The skeletons and Medusa and Kali, all of these other creatures were your brothers and sisters, would you describe us?
So to speak, yes. They were all upstairs in my dad's office, come workshop, and he made these wonderful cabinets. He didn't like buying stuff, so he always made stuff, and especially for the little heads for the fairy tales. So you'll see some of them in the little time machine on display there. So yeah, they were all over the place at home. Upstairs, I was allowed to go up and play with them. And that display thing that you see at the back there with all the heads in it, Daddy made that. And I remember as a child, he's got his easel at the back there behind the skeleton. There. So when I used to come in, there was a sofa here on this side, and I'd sit on the sofa, and if he was there sketching or whatever, we'd have a good old conversation. If not, there was another little room where it was quite a plain little room, but where he made all his wonderful creatures. So I was so lucky to have this at first hand at my fingertips.
In this one-man industry, working from home, building these creatures, designing his artwork. And this room was the room that people were invited to when they visited, and they'd just be surrounded by pieces of cinema history. And if, again, I know I started talking and my presentation was cut short slightly, but we were talking a little bit about the people that Ray Harryhausen influenced.
At the BAFTAs, my dad was in awe that all these famous people from Hollywood are coming to see him, and also with the Oscars, and he couldn't believe it. And it was rather lovely to see, because all these wonderful famous people and directors, they were in awe of Dad. And he was like, Dan, oh my God, Jorgitas is reading Del Toro and everybody. So it was really quite lovely to see both parties admiring each other.
And George Lucas said there would be no Star Wars without your father. Nick Park, of course, at Aardman Animations, if you know Wallace and Gromit, very much following up in the lineup of Ray Harryhausen's work. Steven Spielberg, the original Jurassic Park, was filled with references to Ray Harryhausen's dinosaurs. There's your favorite, Fuji?
I know. I grew up with him, and I think most people might have heard about the incident with Harrods and the baby buggy.
It was at the local bakers. But Vanessa, for those who didn't read the Tucson Weekly, when you like to repeat the story.
Okay. I wasn't really quite fond of dollies. I liked, as we had all these wonderful creatures at home, and I tended to pick up Gronji, and I wanted to go and take him to Harris in a little baby buggy with my mother. And we were in a queue, and 2 old ladies came up and said, "Oh, can we have a look at your dollies?" And there she pulled back the blanket, as there was snarling Gronji. My poor mum really got it. They were so angry. In fact, they went to the local paper, the Daily Telegraph, and said that this woman was, had this poor child that would never be normal. I mean, who wants to be it? It was an unusual childhood, shall we say.
Peter Jackson, we've got a great poster in our collection that Peter signed for Ray, and if you can't read what that says, "Hi Ray, without you, none of this would have happened. The Lord of the Rings and the son of Harryhausen. Best wishes and huge thanks, Peter Jackson." Just what an amazing tribute. I mean, The Lord of the Rings were the films I watched growing up, and he described those as his Ray Harryhausen movies. And of course, Guillermo del Toro, his new film Frankenstein is released very soon, and it's going to be wonderful. All his films are. Del Toro is someone that we've been in touch with quite often, and he's such a big, I mean, to say he's a fan,
Enthusiastic.
say he's a fan, I think is putting it mildly. He's a big admirer of your dad. But we're here, as I mentioned near the start of the screening, we're here from the Ray and Diana Harryhausen Foundation, which is a charity that Ray established himself shortly after retiring from filmmaking in 1986. And we look after a collection which holds tens of thousands of items from Ray's career. I mean, he really never threw anything away, did he?
Oh, nothing, no. He was a bit of a hoarder, and we found some very old things in some very old places. Jugs and jars and like little armatures of hands. And so what was that hand for? So we'd ring up Alan, our conservator that Dad hired, and say, "Do you know what about this hand?" And go, "No, but we'll think on it." And then you'd find a foot or something else, and then you'd find a box of eyeballs. And so there were things not in the normal places sometimes.
Doll's eyeballs.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, not real eyeballs. That's the doll's eye. Oh, sorry.
But we are a small team. I mean, it's 2 trustees, Vanessa, John Walsh is your fellow trustee. And we look at, and it's what a privilege it is to look after Ray's collection and to bring it to places like Tucson and to the wonderful museum here of miniatures. I mean, Ray established the foundation so that events like this could happen. So thank you all for coming today. It's really, really wonderful.
Wonderful. And you guys are so important. And can't stress enough that without you guys and your support, we would be nothing. We'd just slip away. So bless you all, and thank you for keeping Dad's memory alive, because you're the momentum of keeping us all going. So I honor you and say thank you to all of you for keeping Dad's memory alive.
So the story of Ray Harryhausen dates back to the 1930s. Here's teenage Ray with one of his first puppets, a devil marionette. But Ray's life changed in 1933 when he was taken to see King Kong shortly before his 13th birthday. And he left that cinema, Grauman's Chinese cinema in Los Angeles, a changed man. He knew what he wanted to do. He told the spirits, whatever that was, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And he did it. And how many times do you think you saw King Kong with your dad?
Me seeing it with him? Oh, God. I can probably count up to about 17 times, but he didn't way more than that. His was probably in the hundreds.
It was a film that never left him. He was so inspired, and his mentor and hero, Willis O'Brien, the man who animated King Kong, Ray was able to meet actually a few years later. Willis O'Brien, Ray would work with on Mighty Joe Young in 1949, and there is a drawing, or a painting I should say, by Willis O'Brien on display at the museum. I think Ray mentioned King Kong in every interview that he ever did, so we try and share some of Willis O'Brien's incredible art whenever we have an exhibition too. A few years later, here he is animating in his mum and dad's garage. Your grandparents converted their garage into a makeshift stop motion studio.
Yeah, they were very enthusiastic. Grandpa was an engineer or machinist. So he helped Dad with the technical stuff. And then if there was any costumes and things, especially with the fairy tales, Grandma did all the beautiful little outfits and everything.
So I think your dad realized you had to animate indoors, because it's hard with the neighbours washing, running away in the background. But it's amazing that your dad just had this urge to create after seeing King Kong. It's like, I need to do this with my own two hands.
He asked me to go out to the States to see if there was anything in his garage. He said, I don't think there's anything there. I said, okay, fine, I'll go over and have a look. And I came back with 17 boxes of there wasn't anything there. And when I presented them on the kitchen table, he was like, oh my God, you can't put these in. They're awful, throw them out. I said, no, they're beautiful because this is your beginnings. Everybody and the children and everybody have to understand where you sort of develop from. You're not a Michelangelo just like that. So for me, this is very important for all the young folk. And even Peter Jackson showed us an old clip, I think it was with a Cyclops and him running along in on the rocks or something. And it was, in his words, it was cruddy. But, again, you have to start somewhere. So, all the young folk out there who think that it's not good, just keep on trying. Don't give up. Because look what happened to Dad after this.
And there you are examining the contents of this garage with nothing in it. I mean, it looks like there's quite a bit there.
Well, actually, that wasn't Dad's. His was more in the cupboards, in the blue cupboards at the back and up in the rafters. And then there were some metal sheds at the back. So to my horror, some of the rubber and the creatures were in this extreme heat and cardboard boxes. And really, for them to stand the test of time in the extreme heat and cold of California was really quite amazing, because there was no stuffing in the boxes. The animals or the creatures were just plonked in and then taped up, and then that was it. So it was quite a discovery, really.
And we're going to maybe talk through some more of your dad's history here, and we're going to focus specifically on items that you can see at the mini time machine. But the fairy tales are such an important part of your dad's story. He described them as his keying rings. These are the films that he worked on in the time between World War II and branching out as a filmmaker in his own right. So we tell the story here of the tortoise and the hare. This was a short fairy tales film that was halfway completed in 1953. Ray was offered his first solo movie project, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and so the project with the movie remained unfinished until 2002. And these guys, Mark Caballero and Seamus Walsh, approached Ray and asked them to complete the film. And I know it's something your dad really enjoyed, Vanessa.
Oh, he loved every minute with you guys, it was very special, and I think you guys got a thrill too.
We'll take a potted history through Ray's film career. 1949 saw him working with Willis O'Brien for Mighty Joe Young. Ray was credited as first animation assistant. It's estimated he did around 80-90% of the animation in the final film, which went on to win an Academy Award for Best Special Effects. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms in 1953 was Ray's first film as a solo animator, and this is where he developed the dynamation technique. And if you head to the museum, you'll see a wonderful video narrated by animator Randy Cook, who's a good friend of ours. He describes the process far better than I ever could, but this diagram, I think, says it all. Describes very well how Ray was able to take stop motion animation and work alone, and this allowed him to create incredible special effects at a relatively low budget and make very, very popular films. It came from Beneath the Sea. Now, Vanessa, I know there's something that you wanted to emphasize today. It Came from Beneath the Sea was the first film that your dad partnered with producer Charles Schneer, and the two would make, almost every other film that Ray made had Charles Schneer's the production partner, and they worked together for the rest of their lives. They even moved in to the same street together.
Yeah,
right?
they were like 5 doors apart from each other in just off High Street, Kensington. So that's how close they got.
And there's a cameo from Charles Schneer that you might not have noticed in Jason and the Argonauts. So when Talos is laying waste to the Argonauts on the beach, you may have noticed one single Argonaut running into the sea after the boat. The one The one cameo he made in any of Ray's films, I think it was kind of by necessity. I think we packed up for the day and realised they needed to get one shot, so Schneer gamely fit on a toga, ran into the Z. It's got cool, a little bit trivia. But these black and white films of the 1950s, so iconic. Here's the octopus or the sextopus, 6 tentacles, destroying the Golden Gate Bridge.
And they only had 6 tentacles because he ran out of money, and they didn't have enough money to do the others. So the others are under these, you just don't see them.
And now he has no tentacles, but he's on display at the museum, and a wonderful, kind of horrific in his own right now, just Lovecraftian monster. Earth versus the Flying Saucers, a big influence on Tim Burton's Mars Attacks, if anybody's seen that film. But it's really with the 7th voyage of Sinbad that everything changed. This was the first major stop motion movie to be shot in colour. But I think more importantly, Ray delved into mythology to bring a menagerie of different creatures to light. So rather than a creature on the rampage in a contemporary city in America, Ray delved into the Arabian Nights stories to bring to life a giant cyclops, a 2-headed rock, a living skeleton.
And a Harrod's crab.
And a Harrod's crab, yes.
The crab came from Harrod's. They ate it, and then Dad dismantled it and put this extraordinary armature inside it. You don't always eat our creatures, by the way.
Mysterious Island has a lot of creature eating going on there. But we found recently, again, because this is the great thing about having such a detailed archive, is we found out that the day that Ray bought the crab for Mysterious Island was also the same day that you met your mother in London, so a momentous day for Billy Harryhausen. Here's the giant cyclops, one of the most important movie creatures of all time. This is the one that all of these famous filmmakers, they reminisce on being in the cinema in 1958 and just being blown away by this huge, colourful, animated creature.
And that doesn't even look rubbery, does it? It looks real. It really does. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, there is a new leg on this. He was standing on one foot for many years, but McKinnon and Saunders, the armature makers from England, made a very faithful replacement leg, allowing the character to stand with a little more dignity during exhibitions. Jason and the Argonauts, the film we've just watched. I'm hoping that the Loft Cinema will screen each and every one of these movies throughout the 9 months, because they'll come back and watch them all. Your favourites, Vanessa, Guanji, and this, I suppose it's important because it's the first one that you were really around for. You were around for
it. It's only little as. There's a lovely picture of me on Dad's lap on a big scaffolding thing on the set, and then riding one of the horses. But I don't really remember very much of it.
Well, you were also around for 1 million years BC, but you were only a year old, I think, at the time. We've got the manifest for Ray's travel to Tenerife to make this film, and Vanessa was definitely there, but we won't quiz her on that. And this is probably one of the most famous movie posters of all time too, for some reason. We have Ray's alternative design in the archive, which had a big dinosaur standing here. The marketing department went, well, let's try it with Raquel.
She also was a little bit naughty because she was quite well covered. And then during the shooting, her top got skimpier and skimpier and skimpier, and that's how it ended up with nearly a coming out party.
With a little pair of nail scissors. She was kind of shoving away at it. But, the film was a huge success, and because of Raquel and because of John Richardson, but also Ray Harryhausen's dinosaurs. Just these incredible... We're spoiled now. We can see dinosaurs whenever we want. But back in the 1960s, if you want to see some really good dinosaurs, you had to go and see a Ray Harryhausen movie. Some really wonderful, cinematography. This is First Men in the Moon. This is before the moon landings as well, so Ray and Charles Schneer and everybody had to imagine what it may have looked like on the moon. And I think during the moon landing, one of the TV channels over here showed this footage to but imagine what it might be like for everybody up there. And the 1970s and 80s really saw, I suppose, a second wind, a resurgence in popularity of Ray's films. Some real classics, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, featuring Caroline Munro, who's a wonderful friend of ours and a trustee and an advisor to the foundation. And these are the movies that you really remember much more clearly then.
Yeah, I was allowed to go on set, or happened to be in the right place at the time to go on set, meet a lot of the boat. And it was really lovely because during lunchtime they'd have these huge airplane hangars where these long trestle tables would be laid out, and we'd all just eat together on the same cameraman, actors, everybody. And so it was really, really nice.
And your dad was given an Oscar for Lifetime Achievement in 1992. Tom Hanks, when he presented your dad with his award, said, some say Citizen Kane or Casablanca. I say that Jason and the Argonauts is the greatest movie ever made. And it was also extra special because your father's best friend Ray Bradbury was there presented to a special BAFTA in 2010 for your dad's 90th, which is where you were talking about all of Hollywood descended to London to thank Ray for his contributions. And Ray established the foundation, as I mentioned, so that exhibitions such as this can take place, but he also wanted to ensure that his collection could remain together and would appropriately be repaired and restored. And this is Alan Friswell, who's a very important person. Ray hired Alan directly for the purpose of assessing and conserving and would appropriately restoring and repairing the model collection. This was Alan with some of the models that he's repaired over the years, although he's done so much more work as well. And as I mentioned, latex rubber deteriorates naturally. It's an organic compound. And so we're fighting against the tide with some of these creatures because no one built stop motion models expecting them to be on display in a museum 50 or 60 years later. It's a real testament to Ray's craft as a model maker that they survived so long, and now Alan is taken on the baton, I suppose, of keeping the creatures safe for future generations to enjoy.
So hello kids.
And you love watching Alan work,
It's pretty cool. When he comes over, he does start by bringing the coffee or the tea, and we sit down and we have a chat, and I just quietly watch him, and it sort of brings a little tear to my eye because it makes me think of Dad.
There he is working on the Allosaurus from 1 million years BC, and here's a close-up of some of the work that Alan's carried out. I suppose with the Hydra it's more of a case of preventative restoration, because the Hydra lasted incredibly well. Still very supple, almost to the point where it could potentially still be animated, although we would never do that. But Alan searched the model with a magnifying glass to look for hairline cracks, which would allow natural light and oxygen, which is really what causes the latex to deteriorate. And we store all of this in our collections management system. This is Axial Collections. Every tens of thousands of items that are held, are kept and catalogued there so that we can locate them, but also create links between models and between all the different themes that Ray worked upon. So we'll go stage by stage, because I know something that you're keen to speak about is your dad's talent as an artist. He wasn't just an animator, he did so much more.
Yeah, at the Edinburgh Museum, the modern art, I really wanted them to put across this beautiful artwork. And I just wanted people to understand that he wasn't, and I say just, but I don't mean it like that, a film director and producer and did this, but he was a wonderful artist as well, and he did the most amazing drawings and sculptures, and you will see all that at the little Time Museum.
Because we have all of these different elements for every creature. So if you think of all the creatures in every Ray Harryhausen film, he was responsible for all of these different stages. I mean, this is one of the treats from this exhibition in Arizona, a prototype of the beast from 20,000 Fathoms. The original model no longer exists, but this prototype model from 1953 can be displayed. Booble the Owl. Does anyone here like Booble the Owl?
A movie from my childhood.
One of your favourites from... I mean, Boobo the Owl has a very dedicated fandom. We see Boobo tattoos all the time. It's really nice. So there were 4 models for Boobo, ranging into one here the size of your thumbnail through to the full remote-controlled version of that famous character. And Darlene O'Brien, I mean, this is the artwork by Willis O'Brien that we have on display at the museum, but there's a close link to Willis O'Brien's widow, Darlene. Just talk a little, you knew her quite well.
Yeah, well, Dad had her stay with Granny when she was still alive as company in the house in the Palisades. And so I got to know her very, very well. And then when Granny passed, Darlene stayed on and looked after the house for Daddy. And she was great fun. She had such a character, and she made a real mean eggnog.
And then such a lovely thought, Ray, Harryhausen's mother, Willis O'Brien's widow, cat, keeping each other company in old age and your home in LA.
Yeah, she was lots of fun.
So we do have a Mighty Joe Young model in our archive. He's a little too delicate to travel overseas, but we have this excellent replica of the model's armature on display, which lets you see the internals for these wonderful creatures. I'd have a casting of Ray's hands, which, I mean, what we tried to get into the exhibition was a little bit of everything. So there's some fish from each of Ray's films. There's also some personal artifacts dating from the 1930s through to this casting, which was
done in our kitchen on the kitchen table in a bucket. There you go.
So this is when your dad was 91, I think, years old. So this is, this is not that long ago, really. There's Alan, of course, Alan Friswell, casting his hands. These are some candid behind-the-scenes imagery, but some of these models were, and some of these artifacts were made. But Vanessa, you told some of these stories in your book from 2020. Ray Harryhausen, Titan of Cinema. You selected 100 objects from the collection to talk about your father's life and career.
Yeah, it was very hard because, as you all know now, there's thousands and thousands of little items and wonderful memories. So for the museum, I had to just do just 100, which was very hard. But I'm speaking from my heart, from a daughter's point of view, and how I saw things growing up. And it's I think it's a nice little coffee table thing. You can pick it up, put it down, and just see little stories from his dear friends and my memories.
So we have some copies of the book to sell today in the foyer if anyone would like to speak to Vanessa further and buy a copy. People always ask, how did the collection come to have this connection to Scotland? And it's through your mum.
Yeah, she's a great granddaughter of David Livingstone, the explorer. And Dad loved the story of David Livingstone and wanted to do an honor of her ancestor. And so he thought, well, I wonder if we could just do a little sculpture. So he did a little plasticine sort of one, and then got a lovely guy called Gareth Knowles in Ireland to help do the bigger one. And this is the only large sculpture outside. Well, anyway, this is the only one he's done.
So when you visit Scotland, you can see this piece of public art. It looks like something for one of your dad's films, to be fair. Talk a little bit about your mum as well, because she was such an important part of the foundation's success.
She was always on set with Daddy and always giving him encouragement, and read through the letters and a lot of fan letters and helped him with all that. And so yeah, and loved to go on location and meet everybody. And when folk came to the house, everyone said that, Diana, your mum was so lovely and gave us a cup of tea. And so yeah, she was a wonderful hostess and a great mum and a good companion and helper to Daddy.
A patient woman as well, I can imagine.
I think she knew what she was getting to after this.
This is a telegram we discovered there. Congratulations, stop, urgent, stop. Please advise feeding time for the Hydra, stop, chasing by me. So your dad kind of paused an animation for the Hydra, nipped away to get married. Now, went back to complete the film. It's a real honour to work with Vanessa and explore the archive. It's full of still finding things to this day, secrets and treasures that have been hidden for decades. This was Ray Harryhausen's diary from 1939, where amongst other things he detailed that he'd been to see King Kong 35 times already, which in the days we had to go to the cinema every single time, that's, it's quite an achievement. He also talked about his first meeting with Willis O'Brien, and I found it quite inspirational because your dad was a persistent chap. He really knew what he wanted to do and was willing to work very hard to achieve the results.
Yeah, in one of the meetings with Willis, he said that Dad's dinosaur legs were like sausages, and maybe he could go back and do something about it. And then I think this happened here, and he said, call me every week or whatever. And he did. He never took the negative out of that. He always took the positive. And I try and do the same. We all make mistakes, and you have to learn. And so if somebody criticizes you, try and flip it and just try and see a better way of doing it and improving things. And he did that. He was amazing.
So we have been working really hard this year, as Vanessa mentioned. We've been relocating the archive. These are some treasures that we discovered with fellow professional archivist Diana Robertson, who's sitting here today in the front row. She helped us identify some of these little ornaments from the fairy tales films.
And it was great fun because she was looking them up on the phone so that we could see, go through the fairy tales, and that table belongs to Mother Goose and this chair belongs to such and such. So it was really quite fun IDing where these little props and everything came from.
And some other treasures, I suppose, that you talk about in your book, Ray's individually bound scripts, which are really the Bible for each of his films. It's really touching to see the effort he put into binding and keeping these scripts together. Meneton, you may know, was played by Peter Mayhew. He went on to become Chewbacca in the Star Wars movies. That was his first role. He was in the paper for being incredibly tall, and Charles Schneer spotted that. Like, that's what we need. We need a very tall man. You still have this head.
I have the head, yeah. Daddy gave it to me to look after, and when I had my Highland estate in Scotland, we had big, lovely big walls, and he says, why don't you put it on a mount and put it up there? And I'm like, I don't think I could do that. So I know it got mounted. Maybe I will mount it like a stuffed head someday.
And it must be so uncomfortable to wear.
I mean, there's no air holes in it. There's no eye holes. There's nothing in the nose, nothing. So, yeah, I mean, I hope he didn't have to stay in there very long.
And this is a really great picture of your mum and dad. So the book is really your personal story. Such a unique perspective. Nobody else grew up amongst these creatures. Our Vanessa's fellow trustee John Walsh also released a book which looked into Ray Olberman's unmade movies, the Lost movies, War of the Worlds, Baron Munchausen. All of these, for every movie that Ray did make, there was perhaps 3 or 4 which didn't make it to the big screen. We also have a previously unheard score created by John Barry for Clash of the Titans. Famous James Bond composer created a demo for the film and was actually listed as the composer in the early posters. Lawrence Rosenthal's epic orchestrated score was eventually chosen, but it's really, spine-tingling to hear these echoes of alternative history. So if you want to hear more of that, we have a Ray Harryhausen podcast that Vanessa features on regularly too. And we've got all sorts of treats in there if you want to go and hear more. And yes, we're always busy in the foundation. The 3D scanning of Ray Harryhausen's original models to create a lasting digital record. And you've seen this 3D scanning process take.
It's wonderful, and it's really needed too. So
as the models will change over time, we're doing our best, obviously, to look after them. But we also have this alternative digital record for how Ray built his models, and it's just another way of accessing his incredible artistry. But I think, all ties back to Ray Harryhausen himself. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Ray. He's very beloved, very humble man, very generous with his time. Now you got to tell the story here behind the Maltesers.
Boring. Okay, well, when I was wee, I used to go up and see Dad, as I told you, upstairs, and then sometimes I'd take some of the creatures out. And this time I took Picky out, which is the elephant there, and he had some Maltesers. So I wanted to feed the Maltesers to the elephant. Anyway, these Maltesers actually disappeared, and I was convinced that the elephant ate those Maltesers. Anyway, I never thought anything more about it, and I was, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 at the time. And then one day I needed to come upstairs. I'd run out of pencils or something, so I went upstairs and I said, "Oh, Dad, can I get some crayons or something?" He said, "Oh, just open this drawer and you'll find all the pencils and the pads here." And I opened it, and then all these Maltesers came rolling. I'm like, "Why are all these Maltesers there?" And then suddenly the penny dropped, and I'm like, the elephant didn't eat the Maltesers, did it? And they went, "No."
And you actually recorded a commentary for Guanji with your dad. I think that's a lovely photo there of such a unique memory you have of that film. Cowboys versus Dinosaurs, if you've not seen it, it's a really special movie aimed at probably, I'd say, one of Ray's best films overall. Some very incredible animation in there.
And the music's really lovely too.
So Laurel and Hardy, anybody who visited your dad inevitably would end up watching Laurel and Hardy, because this was his absolute favourite.
Or one of Dad's films.
And there's a family connection there, because Ray's father was responsible. He wasn't in the film industry per se, but a machinist responsible for these special effects in a couple of their shorts. But we were able, when we were visiting Mark and Seamus from Screen Novelties in 2018, they tapped us on the shoulder and said, "You know, the music box steps are nearby, so you can tell the rest there."
Yeah, I actually did one. I was like, "Oh no, I can't go all the way up there." And I thought, if I don't, I'm not going to be able to say, "I'm done it, I have to go up there." So I went up. And when I got to the top, I was panting like an old beaver, and oh my God. Anyway, I stood up and I went, "I did it for you, Dad." And then I looked, and there was a big building site at the top there, and these builders were looking at me, and I just went up downstairs. Hey, slipper, support. I was a little bit lost on that head. Yeah, he knew what I was doing.
Well, this is a really, a lovely photo of your mum and dad in the retirement years, I guess. And it seems like they had a lot of fun together, because I suppose Ray retired from filmmaking, but he never stopped working. He was always at conventions and meeting fans, and your mum was always there. But
yeah.
I think we're coming to, open to questions here, but I do have a couple of things to say first. We're very proud to be displaying Ray's work, but also it's lovely to be talking about Ray Harryhausen himself. I know a lot of people here had met him during his lifetime, and he's a very special figure to so many people. But it's lovely to be here at the Loft Cinema as well. Thank you so much to Jeff and to Haley and all the team here for their support today, because it's really, you're seeing Ray's films as they're meant to be seen. But also a big thank you to Vanessa, because Vanessa's really the person that's kept the foundation, the reason that the foundation of the Eidos kept on the different video. And also to the team at the many times the Heaney. I'll get that name right one day.
Thank you so much. You've got an incredible team together, and you really have done honour to Dad. And bless you all for making it such a wonderful exhibition.
And I mentioned, I'll let you hold first an hour. I mentioned that we have copies of Vanessa's book for sale, and if you're interested in buying a copy, please do, for a couple of reasons. One, they're very heavy and we can't take them all back to Scotland. But also, when the old sales from those books go towards Ray Harryhausen's creature collection, so Vanessa doesn't make any money from them. The money doesn't go to anywhere else but to our restoration fund, and so any income that's generated from events like this helps to keep Ray's creatures alive for future generations to enjoy. And we hope to come back here and do more in Tucson and all across the USA and around the world to let people interact with Ray's creatures up close.
And for all those people who do donate and contribute to our foundation, we try most hard on the web and with Connor and through podcasts to say thank you and let you know what your money or your contributions are doing and how they're being used, because as a charity person myself and donating to other charities, I personally like to know where my money's going. So we try very hard to let everybody know if they contributed something, what that has. So if we've got a model that Alan's working on, we'll let you know that that's what that's going towards or something else. So, you're all up to date with what we are doing with the funds.
Now I think we're going to open up to some questions. And yes, here, let's open up with questions. Can I just ask this, though? Is there a missing Holy Grail piece that you've been looking for and wanting to find but haven't found yet? I think we know about the models that Ray had lost over time. I think the Holy Grail pieces were during Ray's lifetime. There were things he couldn't remember and they had discovered, like all of these models in Los Angeles, or the remote controlled Boobo the Owl. Ray really couldn't remember for the life of him where he'd stored that, and our photographer Andy Johnson helped to unearth it. I suppose what's more rewarding and surprising is when we find things that we didn't even know existed. A few months ago, Vanessa found a scrapbook for Clash of the Titans, and it was Ray's first ever drawings of Medusa, Calibos, the Kraken.
It was amongst weird stuff that you wouldn't look for a scrapbook. You wouldn't look for an artist book portfolio. And I came across and there are all these different pictures of early Flash. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we're always discovering wonderful stuff.
So we have time for a few questions. How about right here?
Thank you. This is Connor. This one's for you. Your enthusiasm is so catching. I'd like to know how young you were when you first discovered Ray Harryhausen and how you got involved with the Harryhausen family.
So my mom credit for this. So things are slightly different over here. I think people have seen most of Ray Harryhausen's films in the USA. In Great Britain, it's Jason and the Argonauts. It's like a lightning rod. It's still on TV all the time. And I think we have the shared cultural memory of a rainy Monday morning, bank holiday, off school, sitting in your granddad's house or sitting with your mum and dad and flicking through the channels, and there's Jason, and you cuddle up to watch it together. So that's I remember watching Jason with my mum. She did a classics degree, actually. So she was always speaking about Greek mythology and credited that to Ray's work, seeing Jason and the Argonauts. So I knew about Ray Harryhausen, although I have to admit, I thought Harryhausen was a studio. I thought like Hammer Pictures or something. I thought, no way, I didn't realize this one man was doing all this incredible work. I did an archaeology degree, so I was working at Historic Scotland, looking at aerial photography for archaeology, and then aerial photography from World War II, so reconnaissance photography, which was very interesting. This job post came up that just said film collection, which was Turk & Connell, a legal firm in Edinburgh. So I thought, well, this might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but let's see. And when I got a letter to say it was the Harryhausen collection, I nearly fell off my seat, because why was it in Scotland? That was my first question. It can't be the Ray Harryhausen. There must be some lawyer in Edinburgh called Ray Harryhausen. There's a coincidence. But lo and behold, I went to my interview. Vanessa interviewed me alongside Caroline Munro. So that was, again, in itself, a wonderful and surreal experience. And it's been a roller coaster ride since then. What a privilege. And it's, working with Vanessa has been wonderful. Sadly, very sadly, and I suppose this is a strange thing, I never got to meet Ray myself, because I started working with the foundation a couple of years after he's passed, but I got to know the people that knew him best very well. And I hope he'd be very proud of how things are turning out with exhibitions like this, screenings of his work. I mean, such a privilege to work firsthand with the greatest collection in the world. I think it's fair to say it's, what a joy. There's never been a dull moment, and I'm very, very, very happy to be working with Vanessa and the rest of the team. And what a team we make. I think it's lovely, and it's been a real treat.
Thank you very much.
Another question I'm here.
Hi, Vanessa. I'm 67, so obviously I grew up watching and loving your dad's movies. So my question is this. We went to the museum this morning, and one thing that really surprised me was like
like the great composition and technical ability of your dad's drawings. So my question is, what came first? His love of drawing, or was it his love of movies, and then the drawing came after that?
I would probably think after watching Kong, it would be the movies, and then, from his imagination, doing all those wonderful sketches and trying to, put them in storyboards.
So did he have any technical training that you know of?
He went to art college and went to a lot of night schools doing all sorts of things. So he wanted to get better and better, and he was never idle at all in the evenings or during the day.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
There's a question back here.
Hello, I'm 24. Even though I wasn't alive for when any of Ray Harryhausen's films were released, I grew up watching them, mostly because of my interest in ecology and paleontology. So I'd like to ask, did your dad ever do much to, beyond, his films? Do you do any, environmental, advocacy, or did he go on any fossil dig sites? Since I know he was very fascinated with dinosaurs, and he was one of the best in the era of animal abuse by gluing lizards with sails and horns.
Yeah, he went up to Drumheller. He got invited up to Drumheller in Canada to do part of a dinosaur dig, and do some talks and look around there. And any opportunity when we were on holiday, if there was a dinosaur museum, you can sure bet that we went in there and we went and said hello and looked at everything. And it was wonderful. We've got some lovely pictures. I don't think we've shown it on this. It might be in the book, of Dad digging away brushing away, should I say, at a big dinosaur's eye. Don't ask me what kind of dinosaur, because I can't remember. We were all on it and we all had a little bit, and he was so excited. And the thing that sort of shocked me was, and I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but he wasn't very patient. He wanted to get it out quite quickly, to have a look at the bone, and everybody's going, nowhere, you have to just take the time. So being so patient with all of his film stuff, and taking the time to, do a frame at a time, when it came to a dinosaur leg or thigh, he just wanted to get it out, have a look.
So we have time for 2 more questions, and here's one right here.
Hi. So before the movie, Connor mentioned that the animation for Jason and the Argonauts was done in about a year. And I just want to ask how, because that seems like an incredibly short amount of time for one person to do that amount of work.
So, Tom Baker, the famous actor who played Doctor Who and who played Kura in The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, he commented on this. He went to visit Ray after the live action had been shot for that film, and he was astounded at, as he described it, this monk-like existence that Ray kept, where he'd just spend months and months alone animating frame by frame. I think a lot of Ray's movies took around a year. If the live action would finish and he'd go off on his own with all the models. Skeleton sequence alone, as I mentioned, is 4.5 months. I suppose it was all planned out because he needed to let the studios know when he'd be finished, so that probably accelerated things. But I think it's just Ray's genius, and I suppose he didn't waste a second of that time. He'd be there, and if he was able to generate half a second or 2 seconds of footage a day, he'd be happy with that. And as time went on, he was a very efficient worker, I guess. Vanessa, it must have been unusual for you because your dad would disappear off for all this time animating alone.
Yeah, he had little studios set up one time in Shepherd's Bush, and he was doing his animation there, and he had a little cot that he would sleep on at night. If he had a deadline and he felt that he was behind, then he would stay over in that little cot and carry on through the night and that. And sometimes, at home, if he had things that he had to finish, like models to show the producers or whatever, he'd work through and get it done. I don't think he missed a deadline yet.
Well, this is the thing, studios liked Ray's work because it looked amazing, but also because he finished under budget and on time, which was just, really what they were looking for. So by the time of Mighty Joe Young, I think stop motion animation had this slightly unfair reputation for taking a long time and being very expensive. And Ray was able to really elegantly create his own way of making films, which stopped things going over time or over budget.
All right, I think we have a final question right here.
Thank you. Such an honor to have you in town here at the Loft, and I just feel like it's just been great the last few weeks of having you in town. Has there been any talk of a movie about Ray or a biopic? And if so, Vanessa, who would you want to play him? This would be you, Carl.
I don't know.
That is a good question. I think like a movie of Ray's life would be a really inspirational, because Ray has, I suppose, in many ways, an incredibly positive life story. He knew what he wanted to do when he was 12 years old. Then he did it. Then he spent the last 30 years of his life meeting all of the people who'd enjoyed his work and sort of thanking him for his contribution. So it's a film with a very upbeat ending, I guess. I mean, Vanessa, you've got some ideas of your own for movies that you'd like to be made. I mean, there was an unmade film, Skin and Bone, for example.
Yeah, he was going to have Woody Allen play the main character in it, and but it never got realised. But the sketches are beautiful. And as for who I'd like somebody to play Dad, I haven't a clue. I'd have to be very careful. I've thought about that. Let me think on it a bit longer.
If you choose anyone from history, someone like James Stewart or something, I think would be quite good.
Yul Brynner. He's bald.
But people talk about your dad's like zen-like presence. It need to be someone that was calming, because that's something that we were lucky enough to meet the actors and actresses from Ray's movies, and they say that when Ray stepped onto set, everybody knew that he was in charge, but not in like a kind of megalomaniacal way. It would be that he'd just calm everybody down, and he'd come over and just say, "This, we're doing this and this and that."
Yeah, he had a quiet attitude and calming, and all the actors and actresses loved him because, he'd get right in there too. Like with the centaur in Golden Voyage. Caroline had to visualize where this creature and where she was looking. So he put an eye on a stick and told her to look at the eyes so she could focus on it, and and things like that. So he helped the actors try and get in sync with where he thought his creatures were going to be. So he was really hands-on.
Yeah, just to wrap up, I know this is a hard question, but do you have a favorite Harryhausen film?
Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, I think, is mine. It's a real special movie, and the history of Ray Burns. It's a great watch.
Probably, I like Guanji, but I also like Golden Voyage was the first one because of Ali and all the wonderful things in that.
What about you, Jack? What's your favorite?
Well, Jason and the Argonauts are Clash of the Titans, of course, but I love them all. I think as we all been at, sir.
To choose, isn't it?
Yes. And just so you know, we're going to be trying to show more Harryhausen this year in conjunction with the Time of Shade, Journey, Expedition, yeah.
Let's keep Harryhausen rolling.
Hello, Derek. My name is Randy, and I'm calling from Louisiana. I just wanted to thank you so much for the wonderful entertainment you provided for so many years. I just discovered your podcast. I used to be a firm fan of the B-Movie Cast, but unfortunately I don't think B-Movie Cast is still making episodes, but I'm glad to see you are. I've decided that I'm willing to go all the way back to 2013 for the beginning of your podcast, and I've been listening to a lot of the earliest ones. I really love what I'm hearing, especially the surf rock music you play at each episode. That is fantastic. So, thank you very much for being there for me, and I wish you a good day. Take care.
Randy, thank you for calling in. I really appreciate it. I know this voicemail and the other voicemails I'm going to play here shortly have actually been sitting in my voicemail box for a little while because I didn't realize they were there. I did not get notified that the voicemails were there, so they've been kind of just building up. So I apologize for making you wait for a response. thanks again for calling in. I really appreciate it. Now, if you are going to go all the way back to the beginning, I'm proud of what I did. But, that was over 10 years ago. That was over a decade ago, and I've grown and changed since then. Relationships change, and my production style has changed. I hope you enjoy what you hear. I hope you stick around, because I think we really hit our stride once Beth joined the show. So I really hope you stick around through all of that. The B-Movie Cast, there would be no Monster Kid Radio. There'd be no Bride of Monster Kid Radio. There wouldn't have been a Mail Order Zombie, which was the podcast I did before all of this, if not for the B-Movie Cast. The B-Movie Cast and what Vince Rotolo did was incredibly special and incredibly formative for me and so many other podcasters like me. And they're still around. They just don't put out nearly as many episodes as often as they used to. With Vince's passing, obviously, being the main guy, being the man behind everything kind of slowed down. But Mary is still continuing the show, and Nick and Juan have been involved as well, really doing the best they can to keep the show going. Like I said, it's not as often as it used to be, but they just put out an episode on Halloween featuring their conversation about The Living Coffin, which is a movie from 1959 that I've been meaning to watch for a long time. I have it in my collection. I've just never sat down to watch it. It's a Mexican horror movie, which means Juan's going to have a lot to say and a lot of insight there. So go check it out. When you're done listening to this episode of Bride of Monster Kid Radio anyway, go check out bmoviecast.com and let them know that we gave them a shout out here, huh?
Hey, Derek, it's Joe Iden. Now, if you remember me, it's been a long time since I've left a voicemail, but I've listened to all your shows. I just hasn't been very active with any of my online stuff lately, but your review with Mad Monster Party was fantastic. I really couldn't say enough about it. I am a huge fan of that movie, and I've had it on VHS, I've had it on DVD, and just recently, I had it on Blu-ray, but recently, I think it was last year, Umbrella Entertainment released a beautiful Blu-ray copy of it with a lot of extras and an audio commentary by, I think the guy's name is Rick Goldschmidt. He's like the kind of expert on Rankin Bass. But yeah, it's a really good edition that Umbrella Entertainment put out. And I know that's on Amazon. They're all sold out, so it must be a pretty popular title this time of year. Anyway, what you didn't mention, it was kind of like the sequel to Mad Monster Party, kind of like a side sequel that Rankin Bass did do in 1972 called Mad Mad Monsters. And September 23rd, 1972 was part of the ABC Saturday Superstar movie. So it was a Saturday morning thing. It was fully animated. It's not stop motion. It's not animagic. It's fully animated. Visually stunning. It's just a little weak on the story. But Murray Laws did do all the music. And there's a bunch of musical numbers in it. It has been a long time since I've seen it. But it is on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon Prime. And I'll bet you could probably find it on YouTube. But yeah, there was I don't know if it's really a sequel. It's more like a side movie for it. But again, I had been listening to all your shows, still a big fan, and I really enjoyed the Mad Monster Party because there's a movie that doesn't get enough love as far as I'm concerned, and I'm a big fan. All right, man, keep up the great work. Take care, Derek. Bye.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. I'm really grateful that Mark Holmes wanted to talk about Mad Monster Party on the show, and that Beth and I were able to sit down and talk about it. Mad Monster Party was released on Blu-ray by Umbrella Entertainment, like you said. Umbrella Entertainment is a boutique studio based out of Australia. I don't know if you need to have a region-free or multi-region player to play it here in the States, and I'm not sure of its availability right now here in the States. Umbrella Entertainment's website says it's out of stock. So it might have been one of these things where they were only able to make so many copies of it, and now they are completely out of it. Well, who knows? Maybe it's available on the aftermarket at this point. I've got it on DVD. I've got it on Blu-ray. I'd like to see this particular version of it because apparently it's got a color-corrected master with it, and the aspect ratio has been fixed. I didn't know if there was a problem before, but whatever. And Rick Goldschmidt knows his stuff when it comes to Rankin Bass. I mean, he's like the official unofficial official. I don't know how official he is, but he's the historian that everybody goes to for Rankin Bass history and material. So yeah, if you can get your hands on it, check it out. Let me know how it is. Mad Monsters. You know, it came out a few years later. It was for television, like you said. I think 72. And yeah, Mario Laws has the music, and some of the characters are kind of the same. You know, you got Baron Frankenstein and such, and Igor, but yeah, it's not really connected. I love that Wikipedia even says it's quote unquote related. So it's not a sequel, it's not a reboot, it's not a prequel, it's quote unquote related. It's literally in quotes. So yeah, Mad Monsters. I have seen it once, but it's been forever. So yeah, couldn't really talk about it with a lot of detail. I know Alan Swift did a lot of the voices on it again, but they didn't have Karloff on there, which, you know, Karloff is a big part of the charm of Mad Monster Party. But thanks for calling in, man. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, it's nice to hear from you again, man.
Beth and Derek, this is Bad Shark Blackhand, the necromancer of New Mexico. I spent the late summer and all the fall in Europe, haunting graveyards and cemeteries, but now I'm back in New Mexico, enjoyed my Halloween, and I have some feedback on your most recent episode. I loved episode 50 with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. I thought it was a great discussion with Robert L. Kelly. Not sure of all the legal Rankin and Bass licensing that they had for King Kong but I think that it had expired by the time they did Mad Monster Party. Really loved Mad Monster Party in episode 47. That's one of my favorite Halloween movies. I always watch it every year. And you talked about the models for the airplane. I think they were modeled off after the British movie from 1967, The Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines. In fact, there's a group shot in the trailer that looks a lot like the amassed air armada from the end scenes of Mad Monster Party. I loved hearing you and Gretchen Brooks discussing the Wolfman. That's one of my favorites. As we talked about in person, I love Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. And I loved episode 45 with your Arizona Horror Con coverage. Did not get to go to many haunted houses this year, which is a rarity for me. But then I live in my own haunted house, so I guess that makes up for it. Wanted to put in a quick plug for the upcoming Albuquerque Brick Convention, where I will be exhibiting Bad Shark's Castle, a Lego model of my own haunted house. And I wanted to say, please keep up the good work. Finally, I loved episode 48, the old time radio. I thought you did a great job doing the audio remasters, and I will be listening to that again and again and again, especially Three Skeleton Key. Don't forget to take that left turn at Albuquerque, or you won't wind up in Pismo Beach. This is Bad Shark Blackhand.
Dude, what were you doing in Europe? That's awesome. I hope it was awesome. I hope you were there for a good reason. Yeah, anyway, I hope it was awesome. And I hope the Brick Convention went well. Like I said, these voicemails had just been kind of sitting there in my voicemail box. I didn't realize they were there. So the Brick Convention, the Albuquerque Brick Convention, has already happened. It's come and gone by the time this episode goes out. Like Beth and I, Bad Shark Blackhand is an AFOL, an adult fan of Lego, and I would love to see some pictures of your haunted house, man. You know, set up at the Albuquerque Brick Convention. I hope it went over well. I hope people enjoyed it, and I hope you had a really good time. I'd like to hear more about this haunted house situation, though, man. I really would. But I also appreciate the feedback regarding the episodes that we've done recently. I feel like the last few episodes have come together really well, and not just because Beth has been involved, but I really do enjoy recording with her. It feels like the show is so much better when Beth is involved in the podcast. I will pass your kind words off to her. She's in the other room right now. As we've talked about in previous episodes, she's got some health stuff coming up, and actually she has a surgery coming up next month on my birthday. So we are taking it easy in terms of like her stuff right now. which is why we didn't make it to Albuquerque Brick Convention, among other things. But yeah, just we appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate everybody calling in and sharing their thoughts about what we're doing here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. And if you'd like to call in and share your thoughts with what we've been doing here on the podcast, whether it's about this week's episode or the previous 50 episodes of Bride of Monster Kid Radio, or all the episodes of Monster Kid Radio, or just talking about classic monster movie stuff in general, maybe there's an event happening in your area, we'd love to hear about it. Call us at 360-524-2484. You can also email us at monsterkidradio@gmail.com. Before we get to the end of the show here, I'd like to take a moment and ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Longtime friend of mine, contributor to the podcast, Monster Kid Radio irregular, Matt Rashley, just lost his father. And while I never met the man, I think it's fair to say, based on how Matt turned out, he was a heck of a guy. So I would like to just ask you to join me in a moment of silence, thinking about Matt and his family during this time. All right, thank you. I appreciate that, everybody. We are now at the end of the show, so I want to thank everybody for being on the ride with us here. It's been a heck of an episode. We had the music at the beginning. We've got feedback from listeners like you. We've got the stuff about Harryhausen. It's just been a fun episode. The Ultraman stuff. This has been one of my favorite episodes to put together. I hope you enjoyed it too. And again, call me if you did. Let me know what you thought about it. Or if you didn't, if you have some opposing thoughts, I would love to hear that too. Again, 360-524-2484, or you can email me at monsterkidradio@gmail.com. This is available over on our website at monsterkidradio.net. You're going to find everything that you need to know about the podcast over here, links to everything that we've talked about. You're going to find a link to the Ray Harryhausen exhibit at the Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures. If you're going to go, man, I'd love to hear about it. Take some pictures, share them with us here, and we would love, man, I just would love to live vicariously through you, because unfortunately, Beth and I didn't make it to the museum. We have some time, and we will probably go sometime next year, but I would love to hear about your experiences if you go to check out Ray Harryhausen miniature models of the silver screen. You're also going to find links to everything else that we've talked about as well. You can follow along with what Mark is up to with Small Town Monsters and everything else. Again, it's all on our website. You're also going to find us on pretty much every social media platform: X, Facebook, Blue Sky. We're all over. Just look up Monster Kid Radio. You can also find us on Patreon, patreon.com/Monster Kid Radio. I know I talk about this every week, and I hope it's not getting old, but really, I would love for you just to join us over there. If you do join us over there, you don't have to be a paying patron to do that. You can follow us for free. And when you follow us for free, when I post the show notes over on Patreon, this is the only place where I announce what the next episode is going to be. And I typically post that Wednesday or Thursday. I was a little late this past week, but typically I paste it Wednesday or Thursday over there. So join us over on Patreon. Of course, if you support us on Patreon as well, that helps out too. Also, one thing that we've been doing a lot more of is streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/MonsterKidRadio. Now, it's offline right now, but if you go over there, follow us, you'll be notified when we go live here in a couple of days, when we start showing a whole bunch of stop-motion movies, because it's Harryhausen. I'm inspired to show some stop-motion stuff over there. I can't get away with showing a lot of Harryhausen, but there's a lot of stuff in the public domain that I can show. So go check it out at twitch.tv/MonsterKidRadio. And you can watch movies for free. You can subscribe to us over there too, and that helps us out as well. But just following us and watching helps us too. I can tell you right now, we're going to be showing The Lost World over there from 1925. This movie's a bona fide classic. Also, Joshua Kennedy gave us permission to show his movie, Theseus and the Minotaur, which has some amazing Stop Motion Effects by Monster Kid Radio Irregular, Ryan Langill. So that'll be over there too. So go join us at twitch.tv/Monster Kid Radio. Bride of Monster Kid Radio is a Team Death production. All original content of Bride of Monster Kid Radio is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 Unported license. You can learn more about Team Death, our other projects like Death Designs, Mail Order Zombie, the Team Death YouTube channel, and more at www.teamdeath.com. Remember, death is spelled D-E-T-H. All previous episodes of this podcast, as well as the original Monster Kid Radio podcast, are available at www.monsterkidradio.net. Please rate and review Bride of Monster Kid Radio wherever you download your favorite podcasts. Taos Lightning is copyright 2025, Desert Undertones. You can find their entire discography over at desertundertones.bandcamp.com. You can find their website at desertundertones.com, and you can hear them play live December 19th at Festivus at the Rialto, and December 20th at Moto Sonora Brewery, Tucson. Go check them out. Let them know that you heard about them here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. My name's Derek M. Cook. We'll talk to everybody next week. Ciao.